Today we're going to talk about increasing your team sales, because as a leader it is important to teach your team how to sell so that their sales are higher, because the more money they make, the more likely they are to continue with the business. So the first thing you need to teach, and probably learn yourself as well, is that you just have to have a mindset that becoming better at selling is becoming better at serving your customers. So it is a win-win for both of you and your team and your customers as well. So it is important to change your just mindset if you have something against selling, because it is a great opportunity to be able to serve your customers more. Another thing, too, with your mindset is just to make sure that you're carrying higher-priced books. Some people are not carrying the wind-up books because they think they're too high-priced, or they're not carrying the Slot Together Castle because they're too high-priced. Realize that we demo the wind-up books over and over again at our events. We are not telling them the price when we're demoing it, but when they ask, then we tell them the price. They go, "Oh, that's not bad." Over and over again, they're saying that. So by carrying the wind-ups, you're having a $29.99 sale, and that can make a big difference for your end results. And so carry your higher-priced books. And you're also bringing higher-priced books to parties, and so you're teaching your team members to do that. They need to be bringing those fat combined volumes to their parties and to their booth events if they want to be increasing their sales. If they're bringing $5 books and talking about $5 books, they're not going to have the same results. So it's just changing people's mindset. If you are thinking yourself or your team members that these books are too high, or that people can't afford it, realize that everyone can. It's just something that they're choosing to do. And compared to any other product out there on the marketplace, we are very good, very value-based priced. And so it's just changing the mindset then instead of what the actual products are. And also you need to be teaching your team members just the mindset that $400 is an average size show. They should be getting at least $400 at every party on average. You're going to have some bummer events that are going to be like not very good, and then you're going to have some really great events. But when they add it all up, average should be for them $400, because then they're making $100 in commission. So over and over again, as you're telling them things, that's what you're always basing it on, as a $400 average show. This is actually a rural amount as far as an average. When you're looking at more of a metro or more of a wealthier area, you might have a higher average of 500 or more. So just realize that's kind of a lower base average that would go across the country as far as an average show. So as you're teaching your team members, you're basing it always on the $400 party, sometimes breaking it out for them so that they want to be able to get to that $400 mark is just by telling them you earn $100 at every party average show that you do, and then you're making, the $100 in commission. So you're just telling them to do that. And to increase your team sales, you want to be having them do that every week. So sometimes as a leader, you're going to continue to talk about how much they're making, but you're telling them to go and do that every week, because the more money they're making, again, the longer they are more likely to continue with the business. Sometimes they think they have to go out and get a job at Walmart, because it's consistent income. But really, if they can realize that by just doing one party a week, they make about $20 an hour, it really is an advantageous job for them to do on the side. And by doing the average show a week for 50 weeks, they're going to be earning the $750 sales bonus. And so by consistency, they are able to make more money just because then they're getting the sales bonus, which is paying for their supplies. So this is just things you're teaching your team, and you're just breaking out the numbers for them so that they're looking at that. And then you also are teaching them to try and promote a team leader, because when they promote a team leader, they do make $33 more on every average size show that they do. So that's a 33% pay raise. So instead of $20 an hour, they get $26.60 an hour. And this is, again, based on 5 hours show, but realize a lot of them don't take that long. It's just that's kind of like an overestimate, and so they're making as a minimum the $20 or the $26.60 an hour as on average. So as people are doing things, some of the things that you need to be talking with them about is maybe their why, because in order to increase your team sales, people need to have a why for them to be able to want to make the phone calls or to do the work to do that consistently, to be able to do the parties every week. And so when they have a strong enough why, then that is what can give them that vision to get on the phone, to get a party every week. And so there's a quote there just from a direct seller. When people can't get themselves to do the things they don't want to do, it's only because they don't have a strong enough why. So if they can't find the motivation to work or make phone calls, it's because they haven't taken the time to clearly define their overall purpose, and they don't have a strong enough vision to leverage against the sacrifices that are required to get there. Because this is a network marketing company, so it is work, but it is very doable. So as a leader, some of the things that you can do is to figure out with your team what their why is, to help it make it real for them and make them motivated to make the phone calls. But you do need to make it tangible for them. And so this is just a hint of a method of how you can get your team members to really grab a hold of and live that why. Just find out what they want to reward themselves with. This is just an example. This is I wanted new furniture. And so in this, you're going to relate this back to your team. So I wanted new furniture, so I went to the furniture store. I went and sat on all the different couches. I brought home the sample of the fabric to match to see what color I wanted. And so by doing that, I calculated out what I needed to do as far as based, again, on an average size show of $400, how many parties I needed to do, and then you put that picture up where you can keep looking at it every day, and then you are dreaming it, feeling it, that vision, so that you can be motivated to get on the phone and to book those parties. And so the result is, with 27 parties, this is back in 2012, $97.31 were earned per show on average, so it was during the summer, but then it equals new furniture. So if you can pull an example like that, maybe even doing it for yourself, it could be just maybe you want to get your bathroom redone, and you're talking through with your team how to make those steps of a why really tangible for them and how to motivate themselves by putting that picture up every day that they're looking at it, maybe on their bathroom mirror or right by their phone. That can be a motivator factor for them if it's tangible enough for them to be able to get on the phone and to be able to just motivate themselves, because they have to have the self-motivation. But this is just a skill that they can pull themselves to be able to make a goal or a why more visual. Another thing to do to increase your team sales is actually starting before they do. So as you're recruiting, you realize that your kit. You're telling your potential recruits that the kit has enough supplies to do your first 6 parties, and you want to try and do 6 parties in your first 30 days so you can earn the full refund on the kit. So where you are using the Write Your Own Success Story program right away before they even start as a way for them to always be looking at getting 6 parties, and it's always 6 parties in your first 30 days, 6 parties in your first 30 days, and you're just saying that over and over again before they even start, so that you have that expectation as they're getting started, and then they will be earning that refund a little bit more readily. And so you're using the Write Your Own Success Story program to help your team members get started before they even start. Another thing that you need to think about, too, when you're increasing your team sales is if they are getting low sales, you have to have a process of what you're looking at with them to be able to figure out why they're not getting that $400 party in average. So here's a 4-step process. If something is not working, they need to stop, step back, evaluate, and change, because the definition of insanity, of course, is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So the first process when something is not working or they're getting lower sales, in this example, is you stop. So it might be that you need to coach your team members to stop doing the negative story reel. Sometimes they need to work on their mindset, and they're just kind of being a negative funk, or this doesn't work here, and people don't buy books in my area, and blah blah blah. I mean, there's all kinds of stories. You as a team leader needs to coach your team members to stop and to stop that negative story reel, is what I call it. And they're just stopping the negativity, because obviously if they keep telling themselves over and over again they can't, they won't be able to. So they need to stop that, but they also need to stop what they're doing. Something's not working, so they can't just keep doing that same thing. So they need to stop. Then they need to step back, because when you step back, you have a different perspective of how things look. And so they need to actually step back, and they may have had low sales at that party, but when they step back, they can look back and look at, maybe it was the host coaching that was the problem, because I wasn't making those steps in the phone calls. And so it all ties back usually to something prior. It's not really usually the event at at the present moment of why something is lower sales. And so when they step back, they can look back. And you as a team leader are helping your team members do that so that they can look back and see maybe what are the reasons. And so you're asking a lot of questions. Maybe if it was a low booth event, you're asking, did you ask, the questions for the booth, getting your booth to make sure it was a good one. And just by asking questions, you can help them step back and evaluate the situation a little bit better and more fairly, and so that they can learn what they need to change, because the change isn't really happening at the moment. It's actually prior to that, and it has to do with the host coaching. So that's a 4-step process: stop, step back, evaluate, and change. By doing that and helping your team members follow this process, it works with every single thing in their business for them to be able to help them increase their sales, increase their recruiting, whatever it happens to be. That's the 4-step process to follow. Also, though, if they have low sales, it might be some things that you can do to help your team increase them is to teach them how to sell, and so you're doing some different product knowledge and different things like that. But let me just go through here briefly of ways to sell a book, the easiest ways of selling a book, and one is enthusiasm. And so people are excited about the books, and so they do need to have enthusiasm. So this is in your host coaching, or your consultant, your questions with them when you're doing your connecting calls with them. Just if they're enthusiastic and they have a great attitude, that can really make a difference in their sales. And so you can be talking about things like that with them. They do need to read their books in order to be able to sell them, because the more you know about your books, the better it is. There's lots of different videos online, too, that they can watch. And you as a team, you could produce some of these videos, just like product knowledge videos, just for them to be able to have that knowledge about their books. If they haven't read it themselves, they'll know the words to say to be able to sell it. But the key is when they're sharing about the books, they have to do it without being boring. So it needs to be really short tidbits. This is not a book report. It's little short tidbits of like ideas and just some of the other things I'm going to talk about here next. But it's really short, and it's not a book report all about the entire book. Otherwise, I might as well just have read it. So it's teaching your team members how to do that. It's also ways for them to increase their sales really is with value-based selling. If they can share the savings of some of our higher-priced books, it really can make a big difference for them in helping them increase the sales. And so that's the combined volumes. This is one of the ways to save money. It's a party demo idea, but it also works with booth events as well. Is your specials for your booth are your combined volumes, because they're books with a built-in special, and you have the combined volume signs that they can utilize. They're looking, when you're doing a party, you're teaching them to look for the CV symbol so that they can look for those value-based, or those the books that will save them money. And so it's just value-based selling, but it really does help increase the sales, because obviously these combined volumes are higher in price, and so the customer is getting a good deal, so it's a win-win. Another thing that you can teach your team is, this is also part of a party demo, is the collections. By selling the collections, and this is a way for them to save money with for them to share with their customers how to save money. But by selling the collections, they're going to be increasing their sales, because those, again, are higher-priced books. Library bindings, big book of things to spot. We always carry that in library bindings, both at our parties and at our booth events. It is $8 more, but honestly, when people see the value of it, they buy it all the time. And then our half-price replacement policy is just something that gains customer loyalty as a way to save money, but it also then sells your brand. So that's just some ideas quickly of how to teach your team how to do the value-based selling. So they're using savings as a way of selling a book. Another way of selling a book is ideas. And so with that is, again, remember I said we don't do book reports. So you're just telling them a little bit about the book, but then you're giving them an idea. And so when you attach it to an idea, like the Big Book of Drawing, it's a great book to use for birthday gifts, just with a package of colored pencils, because the the instructions are right in the book, or a great travel book because it already is all contained in the book, and you won't have any loose paper all over, or little ideas. So it isn't like you're giving them all at once, but just little tidbits. And so it might be another one. It's a great book to give to children that are in the hospital because it's all self-contained and just include a package of colored pencils. So you're giving those ideas for them at a party demo or at a booth event, and it's little tidbits, and that's what sells the book because they go, oh, that's a great idea. Or the sticker Dolly dressing, you can take the stickers out and use them, distribute them one at a time for rainy days or for potty training or doing homework. And so those are just different things we hear as you start listening to your customers. You hear all these different ideas. Or the 100 things, the little activity cards, you can put them on a ring, and that can be how you can display them at your booth events or at your parties. So by attaching an idea to your books, it really does make a big difference as far as customers wanting to buy them. Another thing that you can do for selling a book is to attach emotions to it. And by that I mean, for example, one customer told me that she put her child into timeout with the CD, and they didn't want to come out, so she had a wonderful afternoon. So what the customer is hearing is the length of the CD a little bit, but they're also hearing the emotion part of it. It's like, oh, I want that wonderful afternoon. So it's the emotions part of it that actually sells the book when you're sharing that testimonial. Another thing that you can share about is, does your child love to read? If you ask a kindergartner if they want to read, 100% say yes, but by the time they graduate from high school, only 19% want to read anymore. So I'm always sharing that statistic at booth events when I'm booking parties, but I also share it at every party because that just changes the perspective as you're doing the party, because people are going, oh yeah, I really need books, or children outgrow clothes as often, or children need new books as often as they need new clothes because they outgrow books as well as their clothes. And so you're just sharing things like that. It connects to the emotion, and it makes a big difference versus just, this is a great book because, this is a great book because. You have to get the meaning or the feelings behind it of why they want to buy your books or why they want to buy books, period. And so some of these statistics out of the Read Aloud Handbook can make a big difference for touching people's emotions. Smarter kids. This is also kind of tied into emotions a little bit too. Everybody wants smarter kids, and so you are sharing that, if you want smart kids, you need to read smart books. And so Usborne really are great books because they include all the latest in educational research, and they have just really innovative things of how they are teaching children. And so you're just sharing little tidbits about the books, but it's more of an educational nature instead of just like, this is a book, blah, blah, blah. You're saying this is a book that when children are first born, they can't see color, they're colorblind, and they also can't see depth. And so with this book series, what they've done is with just even the patterns, you can see that the pictures popping off the page because of the patterns. And so it's a great book designed for your babies because it has both the depth and the color, the black and white contrast for when they're colorblind. Or That's Not My series. They have rounded corners so they won't poke out any eyes, very thick board book pages, so it's very high quality. And parents are telling me over and over again that they last forever. But on the pages, you'll notice that they've outlined the pictures in black so that when their eyes aren't as developed, they can see those pictures better. And then there also is a little white mouse hidden on each picture just for fun because visual discrimination is a pre-reading skill. So I'm seeing those little blips, and I say them over and over again, so I say them quite quickly. But I say them at booth events, I'm saying them at parties, and people go, oh, these are smart books. That's what makes the big difference with increasing your sales, is because they're seeing the educational value of it and not just that it's a book. And I even address that, you'll find books everywhere. The grocery store, Walmart, everywhere, and you get them free in the cereal box, but realize some of those books just need to be thrown away because they aren't teaching your child anything and they're poor grammar or whatever they are. So with Usborne, you'll notice that they're very high quality. They're not overpriced, and but yet they're learning something in every book. So here, animal hide and seek, it counts up to 5. There's a little yellow duck they're looking for on each picture. So just little things like that you're sharing with them. Ted and Friends, always read the front and back of your books because Ted and Friends has the phonics guides in the back for parents to be able to work with their children on the different sounds. Or the Science Encyclopedia. This is internet linked, and so there's 1,000 recommended websites so that you can see further information on anything that has a star by it in the picture. Let's say they're going to do a science fair about rabbits, and so you can see that picture has a star by it, so they can actually download that picture, put it on their board. That's a free service with our books. And so you're just explaining to them, and it has see it for yourself boxes, so science experiments almost on every page, so they can incorporate all 3 learning styles. your visual, your auditory, and then your hands-on. Hands-on is very hard to do in a book, but Usborne does it very well with our flip-flaps and our science experiments built in on this book on almost every page, as well as the websites. So you're just little blips like that you're sharing really quickly. What makes our books different and unique and stand apart from everyone else is that we write our own books, and so the Illustrated Dictionary of Math, we've actually written it ourselves. So Usborne Publishing has, versus a math expert, because if a math expert wrote it, they would not be able to bring it down to a level where everyone would be able to understand it. So this is something that we do so that it's understandable for everyone. So that's, again, Smarter Kids. That's another way of selling a book, and you're just sharing how our books are really top-notch educationally. And then your testimonials. You can hear that I've been saying them all throughout. Your testimonials are a way of selling a book, because you don't want to be saying all the time, my kids love this book, or this is an awesome book, and it just gets really boring. You're just pulling in other people's testimonials. It's things that you've heard from customers. It's maybe it happens, every time you do a team meeting, you're talking about these books. All those testimonials that everybody else shares, that's a testimonial from a parent, and so you can use that. One parent told me, even though it was your team member next to you, they're a parent, and so you can use that testimonial as a way of selling a book. One of them, actually, from one of our team leaders, she said her husband is a science teacher, so she said, I brought this book home, and he said, I bet you it doesn't have this blah, blah, blah theory. And she looked it up, and sure enough it did. And they said, well, I bet you it doesn't have the blah, blah, blah theory, and sure enough it did. So I share that testimonial, and it's her testimonial, but we use it all the time to sell that book, and it really does work. And so now you guys can use it too. You don't even have to know what the theory is. You just say the blah, blah, blah theory, and that works as a great testimonial. I had one gentleman at a booth. It was a really slow booth. He read the Second World War out of this book here, and he was a World War II buff, and that's why he wanted to read that section. And he said it was one of the best books he's ever read. And so, again, it was someone else saying it, and it's not me, and you kind of add validity to it because he was a World War II buff, and he had read a lot of other World War II books, but that one he thought was one of the best he's ever read. A big book of things to spot. I had one hostess tell me that she got it for her 3-year-old, and he looked at it for 3 hours. And so that's, again, just different ways that you can teach your team how to sell a book, because the more that they can learn some of these things, then the higher in sales that you will be getting as a leader, but then also they will be getting, and then it adds to their longevity, because everyone needs to make money for them to continue with the business. And so as we learn how to better serve our customers and better sell to our customers, the better off we all will be. So thanks for coming.